All right, folks, before we get into today's content, if you could please do me a huge favor, as views have been down across YouTube, it seems, to please smash that like button. And if you like the content, please hit that subscribe button also. So without further ado, let's get into today's content. Alrighty, hey there folks, and it's Brian with Foxfire Armory again, and I think I'm going to start calling these segments where I kind of just go over the news and give you guys some updates of what's going on around the world, the brief. So you're probably going to start seeing that in the title. I'll probably put it with the date also of the date that I'm actually releasing it, so it'll be the brief and the date, and that way you kind of know what's coming when you see the title of the video. You'll know that it's going to be this style of content, and we'll go over kind of the news, world news, and as we see it. So the first thing we got here is France and the heat waves that they are warning about, and that they're actually currently seeing, because there has been a bunch of fires actually that have been hitting Europe, primarily Spain, Portugal, and Greece, which you can obviously see right there. And I'm going to obviously try to keep content out from this little corner where my head is so that you guys can see. And they're seeing record temperatures. And for anyone who knows anything about how the climate works, we go through periods of rising heat and rising cold. And we happen to be currently in a graduated heat pattern. And we are due for an ice age. We really are. And that's one thing that people don't like to talk about when they're talking about their climate agenda, that we very much are short. We need to have a second ice age, essentially. Like we haven't had it, and we're due for another one. So France has been seeing these wildfires basically last few weeks here, and it's, for those who are in California or here in the US know about the California wildfires, it's basically caused a lot of people to have to flee their homes, and they've been setting up evacuation shelters and that kind of stuff. So I'm not really sure what to make of this, to be honest. I thought it was an interesting story, and obviously with everything going on around the world, this is just another example of, if you haven't noticed, shtf is kind of happening. It may be a slow ramp up to the bigger shtf situation, but I mean, things are just really crazy out there right now, and this is just another example of that, and that's why I wanted to bring it to your guys' attention. On top of that, things like the wine and the grapes and stuff that are in these areas, are probably going to see issues as we move forward, because France does grow crops, they produce wine, and yeah, that's really all I got on that one. But keep your eye on this kind of stuff. I think it's going to be happening a little bit more and more, just kind of all over the place. We're seeing it here in the United States, and with fertilizer shortages and water issues, because people are afraid we're depleting the resources too quickly, right? I think this is the kind of thing that's going to, unfortunately, keep happening in the near term. So this is first off, a terrible, tragic situation. But sorry, my scroll wheel's going a little wonky on me here. The headline says it all, right? There was a shooting in Greenwood, Indiana at a mall, and a legal licensed concealed carry holder was able to neutralize the shooter before he could continue. And you're going to hear the left saying, oh, well, the Good Samaritan with a gun didn't stop the 3 people from getting killed. Well, how many more could it have been if there wasn't a good guy who was willing to pull his weapon and use his weapon and put himself in harm's way, right? Because ultimately, you can carry your weapon around all you want, but if you're not willing to put your body on the line, then there's really no point. And so that kind of just goes for all of you out there who do conceal carry and who may at some point be faced with a situation like this, and we pray that none of us ever are, but it just seems to be the standard for today's day and age, right? And yeah, so 3 people obviously were killed, which included the suspect, I believe, and 2 were injured. And basically the police chief, when he was speaking on this, said that the real hero was the person who was concealed carrying, which obviously doesn't go against, it goes against the mainstream media's narrative that, you know, all guns are bad. But just wanted to throw this one out there since this just happened, and make sure you guys are up to date on these kind of things. And hopefully this isn't too close to our good friend Harshman Hills, because obviously this is a terrible situation. And so this one, obviously we talk a lot on the channel about what's going on in Ukraine, and that's just because, well, you got to kind of keep an eye on these things because, well, it leads to things that are happening with other countries, like we talked about with Germany and the natural gas pipeline being shut off to German citizens. So this is an interesting one because Iran has basically, and I'm going to pull up the story, they basically are claiming that they have nuclear capability already. Essentially that they have created an atomic bomb and that they have the ability to use it. So the fact that Vladimir Putin is visiting Iran essentially during this Ukraine-Russia conflict is very interesting and bothersome to me, in particular for the fact that we have been trying to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons, from developing a nuclear program for a very, very long time. And the fact that Iran and Russia could be teaming up currently, we already know that it's China, Russia are going to be together, right? It's an inevitable. So if you throw Iran on there, you now have 3 global superpowers who do have nuclear capabilities, basically teaming up, controlling certain areas of the globe, and it doesn't bode well for the prolonged longevity of the Ukraine-Russia conflict here. So, as always, I'll leave the links to these articles, and I'll let you guys read through this one, but obviously we don't know exactly what they talked about, just that Putin visited, I can never pronounce his name, Khamenei. Yeah, I probably butchered that, but, you know, it is what it is. Which leads me into this story, and I'm going to play this clip real quick for you because I think it's hilarious.
The Washington Post reported last week that homeless shelters in D.C. were filling up, and groups are getting overwhelmed by these buses that the governors of Texas and Arizona are sending here full of migrants.
So did you catch that? The mayor of D.C. is now all upset because Governor Abbott has been sending migrants, illegal immigrants, from the border in Texas all the way to D.C. And they don't appreciate the fact that now all these migrants are filling up the homeless shelters and utilizing D.C.'s resources. It's not so great when the shoe's on the other foot, is it? So I just thought this was funny, and I love that they tried to use this, right? They are claiming, let me scroll up just a little bit for you guys here. Whoop. Okay, that's not going to let me scroll up for whatever reason, but basically she's trying to say that the migrants were tricked into boarding the bus and being delivered to the city. No, they're not. They were being given instructions that you were going to be transported from here to here, and it's not that they're being tricked, it's that they're being told to board these buses or essentially be deported. So, again, I'll let you guys watch the video and read through it, but I think it's hilarious. This is one of the funniest things that I have seen to date, not only from a politician doing this, but just from the fact that the DC mayor, Democrat mayor, is all up in arms over it, right? They literally said this was coming, and you either shut down the border or this is going to continue happening. So the last thing I got for you guys today is, at least for the news, is that Iran is claiming to have built a nuclear bomb, right? And we just talked about that. And essentially they are, I don't know if they're trying to say that they have the capability to build one or that they've already built one. But basically this is just a slap in the face to Joe Biden at this point, right? Saying that there's nothing you can do. He's a weak leader and they're going to walk all over him and do whatever they want to do. On top of that, you have all the stuff going on with Israel and Palestine and Syria again. And so, you know, this is the kind of news that really just, it harkens back to me telling you always, prep, right? Get your stuff in order, get your house in order, get your security in order, and make sure that you're ready for if, God forbid, Iran, Russia, whomever, decides that they're going to start a nuclear war, that you are able to, you know, withstand an extended period of time. And that also goes to the fact that I say get out of the cities. And I wish I had the image, I wish I would have saved it, but someone posted on Twitter a image of what they referred to as, you know, climate change, and it was actually in the jest of saying that it's the big cities that are the problem, right? So you have this smog-filled city, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it was either Chicago or New York, and next to it was a rural city that's all green, the air looks great, you know, there's no issues. And it's really, if you can, get out of the cities, right? Get out of the cities, you'll get out of that smog and whatever else they're pumping into the air, and you'll get to essentially a better way of life, in my opinion, right? And I'm not saying you need to move all the way out to where you're, you know, a hermit on 100 acres by yourself, but just get away from the cities, right? Get away from major urban centers and even the suburban urban centers, right? So when what I mean by that is places like there's Chicago proper, right, which is along the lake right there, and then all around it is all the Chicago suburbs. And those are the areas that you just want to get away from, right? Smaller towns, less people, and make sure that you research the town before you go there, because you can, in some cases, find some not so great rural towns, but all in all, it's probably still better than being in the crime-infested cities. So that's really all I got for you guys today with the news. As always, if you guys enjoy the content, best thing you can do, please like, share, subscribe. And as always, this is Brian with Foxfire Armory. Until next time.